You remember being told that Canadians would crawl back to Arizona once the weather got cold and that we would quietly get back on that plane. Yeah, it didn't happen for all snowbirds. I'm going to start off 2026 with some genuinely good news coming out of Victoria, British Columbia. And it directly contradicts that Arizona report I covered last year, where the arrogant CEO said that snowbirds would cave once winter hits. Welcome back, everyone, and I hope everyone's having a great morning start to 2026. I also have another report today that doesn't really involve Canada directly, but it does matter. It's about New Orleans being forced to cut city jobs because of budget shortfalls. I'm including this because understanding where their taxes come from is an important context, so I'll explain a little bit on this later. I also have the second half of the Zeteo channel's conversation with Goldie Haidider, the Trump bootlicker who thinks we should continue sucking up to Trump. So we'll be covering all of that as we kick in the new year. The first backdrop of 2026 comes from Leif from Denmark, who traveled to my hometown Vancouver during the summer of last year. He caught the annual fireworks show in English Bay, and judging from the angle, I think he's watching it from Vanier Park. Thanks for sending this in, Leif, and I hope you had a great time in British Columbia. Oh, one more thing, Leif. Canada stands with Denmark. Don't let the orange guy push you guys around. And just on a quick side note, I actually heard the fireworks might be cancelled moving forward in Vancouver. If that's true, it's sad to see it go. Okay, let's get started with the first report out of Victoria.
With this palm tree out front and Arizona-bought tiles for his fence, Mike Dennis looks every bit the part of the Canadian snowbird wintering down south. But not this year. After 11 years of spending 6 months each winter in Arizona, the Nanaimo man and his wife have proudly parked themselves in Parksville for the winter, one of a growing number of Canadian snowbirds who are changing their retirement plans of spending winters in Florida and Arizona and choosing the mild climate of Vancouver Island instead.
Now, when I hear Canadian snowbirds, I automatically assume that they want beaches and 25-degree plus weather. Choosing Victoria, Parksville, or anywhere else on the island would still mean the mildest winter temperatures you'd find in Canada. I guess I'm a bit biased because I'm born and raised in Vancouver, and the Victoria temperatures is just normal to me. But then again, I guess the lower mainland weather is still a lot better than dealing with minus temperatures.
Did you envision this being your retirement?
No, this wasn't in the plans really. It just kind of happened.
And he says it's largely in protest of President Trump and U.S. tariffs.
The Canadian dollar was a factor. And of course, Trump just got worse and worse all the time. So we're at the point where we just don't go anymore.
Dennis isn't alone. Large RVs with plates from across Canada are now showing up in big numbers here, according to the executive director of 4TVI Tourism Vancouver Island.
So we're certainly seeing more and more reports of Canadians from central and eastern Canada choosing Vancouver Island for their vacations right now, and expect that to continue throughout next year.
So we saw an Alberta plate and a Saskatchewan plate in the B-roll footage, and I'm sure there were probably plates from other provinces and BC as well. I know I keep using the CEO from Arizona as an example because of his smug comment, but I also did a previous report on a president or CEO of some snowbird association. I can't remember what it was called. He claimed that he was still seeing a trend that many of his members were still continuing to go south. I really didn't like that report or the message that he was pushing, because his survey was done from his own members, people who purposely sign up to his site to get snowbird perks. So of course his members are still going to go. But what we're seeing right now, and what Brian just said, shows something different. The broader trend is still continuing. And to me, that's a much better representation than a survey done through a membership website.
Just as a 2025 winter traveler survey by the Travel Health Insurance Association of Canada earlier predicted, of those polled, only 26% of Canadians said they were likely to go to the U.S. in 2026. It's a drop of 37% from 2024. But the largest decline was recorded among those 61 and over, the majority of snowbirds, with just 10% of them saying they intend to go south.
Well done to our Canadians aged 61 and over. A 66% drop from 2024 is a huge number, especially when we know that retirees tend to stay longer and spend a lot more. But the fact that 10% only want to go next year tells me that the US travel boycott is going to continue, and the people with the largest disposable incomes are not going to give the United States their hard-earned savings.
A 66% decrease from 2024.
The vast majority of people that I knew that went every year to the U.S. have quit going also.
The U.S.'s loss is big business. Canadian snowbirds spend about $1.5 billion a year in Arizona alone, so Vancouver Island tourism operators are hoping this surge of snowbirds that are not usually seen here will continue all season long.
My gut tells me that this is going to continue and it's only going to grow. The more restrictions, visa fees, and barriers that are put in the way of travelers going to the United States, the more people are going to decide to stay away and just say screw the US. Now, you might remember that Canadian from the Arizona report, or Joan from the CBC radio interview. They both said the usual line. Well, all of my friends are still going. We have no problems, and neither have my friends. Well, this snowbird said the opposite. Almost all of his colleagues are also boycotting the United States. I'm pointing this out because the media loves to exaggerate the idea that Canadians are still going. Let me correct myself, the US media. I'm here to show the other side. Snowbirds who are saying they're done and are actively boycotting. Let me know in the comments if you're happy to see this report. And if you are and you're not subscribed yet, help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button below. Now I want to move on to a report out of New Orleans. They're now facing a reality that city workers may need to be let go due to budget cuts. This doesn't relate directly to Canada, but in a way, we're probably contributing to it.
New Orleans city employees will be out of a job in the upcoming new year because of budget issues. We're talking about some of the staff members in the mayor's Office of Youth and Families and the Office of Criminal Justice Coordination. We're told they would be terminated on January 12th, and 2 offices will no longer operate as standalone entities. Youth and Family Programs will operate under Human and Health Services, and the Office of Criminal Justice Coordination will operate under Health and Public Safety. We asked Moreno's team if more job cuts are on the way. We received this statement saying, quote, any remaining unclassified city employees who may be impacted will be notified.
I'm going to cut it here. But the reason why I wanted to show this is because these job losses and budget strains tell a bigger story. Some counties and states have been relying heavily on tax revenue from tourists, like you and I. And when the tax revenue stops coming in, the first signs are usually cuts to city programs, projects, and staff. That's often the first indicator that the domino is starting to fall. Our good friend Abby sent this article over to me, and it says, when international tourism declines, the direct hit to tax collections is only the first domino. And I honestly think we're just starting to see that first domino fall. To clarify a bit more on this, I want to go back to the CBC interview with Wayne Smith from the Ted Rogers School of Management, who talked about this exact same issue.
What does it mean for the local economies? I mean, again, this goes back to the credit card data that you're talking about. We've heard stories of Vegas, for example, the number of Canadians who aren't going to Las Vegas and spending all sorts of money. Those border states as well, but also down in places like Florida and Arizona and Palm Springs, where a lot of Canadians would go to escape the cold weather. What does that mean for their economies?
Well, the big news you're going to see is come February, when they're starting to work on next year's budgets, all of a sudden, all those taxes that they're getting from the accommodations tax, the food preparation tax, the different taxes, the admissions taxes, all those revenues, the sales taxes in Buffalo, for example, would be another one. They take a big portion of that to help run those cities. So the U.S. tax system is different than the Canadian one, where a lot of those tourism taxes actually fund a lot of local and state services. So when you take away that tax base, all of a sudden you're looking at, there's been estimates in Orlando, for example, that 29% of the property tax is saved by the tourism taxes. So you're not going to raise taxes 29% on property taxes. So what are you going to do?
Something's going to be cut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut it here, but it was a great conversation between Wayne and Matt with a lot of useful information. I know some of you may want to hear the rest of it. I'll put the link in the description below. But the GTL community is also in luck. I'll be speaking with Wayne one-on-one this weekend. We'll be digging deeper into this topic, along with many other cross-border issues that are happening right now. We'll also talk about some other dominoes that we may not even considered yet, that could start to fall in 2026. So I'm really looking forward to hopping on a call with Wayne this weekend. The video should hopefully be published sometime next week. Now I want to move on to another part of the interview from the Zateo channel, and thank you audience for correcting me on how to pronounce it. This is where they interviewed Goldie Haidider, the CEO of the Business Council of Canada. This guy claims he's on Team Canada, but at the same time, he's got Pete Hoekstra on speed dial, and he's golfed with members from the Trump team. To me, it doesn't sound like Team Canada at all. Sounds more like Team MAGA. So let's listen to the rest of what he has to say.
interesting that you said there's been a consistent approach from the administration. I live in the United States. I cover the Trump administration for a living. One word I would never use for the Trump administration is consistent, especially on the trade front. This is a guy who kind of ups and downs tariffs based on how he, what side of bed he got out in the morning, whether the Swiss gave him a gold watch or not. Yeah. He drops tariffs. You're telling me you think his tariff strategy with Canada is consistent?
Yeah, what I hear from is you separate the noise from what the president says to what he doesn't say. Okay. You look at what he does and what he doesn't do. What do I see? Last week, I was in Washington at the USTR's consultation process, something they've embarked on for a 270-day period in order to meet their own regulatory requirement to report to Congress on January 2nd. So to me, I see process on one hand, the train that is the USTR and the means by which we get to a table where we review and renew an agreement that the president once called the greatest deal of all time. So I see that, and yes, the news reports, including up here in Canada, the worst interpretation of any comments made by the administration as doomsday. I don't believe it. The reason is math. The reason is geography. We're a connected continent. It's working. We're the envy of the world, and I have every reason to believe we're working towards the review and renewal, and I'm not going to get distracted by the noise.
You know who this guy is starting to remind me of? A polite version of this guy. Because he just said he doesn't believe in this doomsday. And I think one of the reasons why is pretty simple. If things don't continue to go the way that Lord Trump wants it to go, this guy's going to have to sit down and with his members and explain why the bootlicking wasn't enough, and that real changes are coming. So exactly who are these members? One of our viewers on Blue Sky sent me this link listing all the members on the Business Council of Canada that this guy's probably responsible for, or at least claims he represents. Here's a short list of who these members are. We got some guy from General Motors. What else? We got Dextera, Boston Consulting. I don't know a lot of these companies. I'm sure some of you might. Polygon Homes, as I recognize. TD Bank, Crosby Group, CIBC. There's a lot of CEOs here. A lot of people that he would have to report to. Enbridge, TELUS, Hyundai. I'm just going to stop it here. But the point of showing this to you is simple. These companies that rely heavily on cross-border business and transactions, it's in their best interest. And when I say there, I don't mean you and I mean the bottom line to each one of these companies and the Temu version of Kevin O'Leary. So keep this in mind whenever you hear Goldie speak. He's speaking on behalf of the CEOs I just showed you, not on behalf of the regular citizens like you and I.
You recently told Canada's Politico Playbook that you're on U.S. ambassador to Canada. The U.S. ambassador to Canada is on speed dial for you. You also noted that you recently golfed with a Trump organization lawyer in Miami. What kind of conversations are you having with Trump folks about this trade deal? You said, ignore the noise. Is that what they're saying to you?
I think it's extremely important to engage with your customer and with your partner. And the United States of America is both that to us as we are to them. We can't shoot the messengers. We have to hear the message. Trump 1.0 is not Trump 2.0. We've got to figure out what is it that we need to do to ensure that we don't blow this agreement up, an agreement that works not just for us, but particularly for the United States of America, where 13 million jobs are created as a result of the trade agreement. And what they tell me is...
What about the jobs that the orange guy is taking away from Canada in the auto industry? Yet you seem to care more about the jobs created in the United States and about appeasing Donald Trump and what he wants, even when it might not be the best interest in Canada. But I guess it's the best interest for all those CEOs.
There's a plot to this script here. There's a script here. There's a plot. We're all in a reality TV show. Understand that Canada is trying to play chess. No one's playing with it. We're not here to get into the nitty-gritties of trade agreements and the clauses and subclauses and all that. At a macro level, the president's narrative is, I want investment to come to America. I'm going to do everything I can to bring investment to America, and I'm going to do what I can to leverage my economy, which he should be doing, as we should be doing.
But Goldie, you make it sound like this is normal, what is happening.
It's not normal, but it is today's normal. It's the new normal.
But you said a moment ago, you said, look, we're the envy of the world, we're one continent, we're interconnected. Your Prime Minister, Mark Carney, when he was elected earlier this year, said that Canada's old relationship with the US is over. Those were his words. He said our military and economic relationship, the deepening integration of our two countries is over. It was quite a stark statement from, as you say, America's closest neighbor.
Well, I agree with the Prime Minister on a lot of things. We're very aligned, but it's not one of them. The notion that the relationship between Canada and the United States has changed forever is a very long time. After all, if you look back in history, we fought 2 wars. We beat you in both of them, and we burned down the White House. And here we are, for the last little while, have been best of friends. So things are not forever. We've got to get through this period. But what we've got to preserve is the foundation that's allowing our economies to function.
Okay, I thought I could get through the editing process listening to Timu Kevin O'Leary, but I can't listen to his gaslighting anymore. Our Prime Minister Mark Carney is correct. The relationship is over. For many of us on the citizen level and watching this video, it's done. At the government level, we are looking elsewhere for partnerships. And with Canada's global reputation, we will have countries coming to us. But this guy, he's hoping the relationship isn't over because the hundreds of CEOs he's responsible for, they want to keep things going with the orange guy to protect their bottom line. But will any of these CEOs, presidents, or managing directors you're seeing on the screen right now, will any of them give a shit if these policies hurt everyday Canadians? Not likely. So my message about this Goldie guy is this. We have to remember there are forces at play that want to continue bowing down to the orange guy's regime. And their reasons are selfish and self-serving. They do not speak on behalf of many Canadians. And my concern is that the wrong message was being sent to the Zeteo audience. Thankfully, Canadian viewers made their voices heard in the comments on the Zeteo video. So anytime we see these gaslighting campaigns, Canadians need to speak up and call a spade a spade. If you come across any of these type of videos in the future, feel free to send them my way. That's all I have for today's video. If you're still here watching to the very end, I truly appreciate your support, because watching the full video helps the YouTube algorithm to show it to more like-minded people. Have a great New Year's Day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.